What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Alright guys, today I am going to do a prediction video for YCS Rhode Island. Now, this might seem a little bit rushed, but I gotta make sure I get this video out before Friday. Now, if you've been looking at my channel over the past couple of months, you know that I did a YCS prediction on Toronto and Indy. Indy, I was one of the only YouTubers. I think I was the only one who did not pick windups to win the event. Now, some people said, oh, it wasn't very hard to pick what wouldn't win the event, despite the fact that windups were a huge, colossal favorite, and I didn't really see many people not picking them. I did not pick the deck, and I'm going to give you some bold predictions for this event as well. Now, if you guys are unfamiliar with my thoughts on Geargia, then just watch my Geargia and Hero deck. You know that I'm not in love with Geargia. I, by no means, think the deck is bad. I think the deck is very good. I think that it strikes me as very Utah Jazz-esque. When I think of it, I think of token second place deck. Not really sure if it's ever going to be able to get over the hump. And that's because I don't love the fact that this deck seems very offensively challenged. I don't think the deck plays defense all that well. I've gone over this time and time again. The synchro options aren't really there. If you run the Karakuris, well, you're running the second best version of Geargia's. Why would you run the second best version when you could just run the most optimal build? You know, XC plays are kind of limited. You can't make 3s, 5s, 6s very easily. You look at decks like Insectors, Windups, Chaos Dragons, they can all make those really, really easily. So I do think that the deck is very limited. Despite all of that, I'm picking Geargia's to win YCS Rhode Island. This may seem like pandering, it may seem like double talk, it may seem like flat out blasphemy, but I do have a logic. One of the things that I will say about Geargia, and it's something that I absolutely love about this deck has the best grind game in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now as far as tier 2 and up. When you have cards like Machina Gearframe and Geargia Armor that can just make, you know, that have really good stats and go auto +1 at the drop of a dime, those are cards where you're basically happy to see them in the late game almost always, you know what I mean? Unless your opponent has a Thunder King on the board, I can't think of when those cards are ever going to be bad top decks. When the game doesn't go your way and you have to grind down the game, your win condition isn't evident, you play against a deck with an alternative win condition, this is where decks like this tend to absolutely shine. There's another thing about Geargia's I really like. I like the fact that when you really run the Machina engine with just gear frames and fortresses, it's really actually difficult to draw bad hands. I noticed that when I played Karakuri Machina Plants. Anytime I had gear frame in my first hand, I was like, okay, I'm pretty good. Like, it didn't matter how bad the hand was because not only was I going +1, I was putting a big beat. It's like opening with Stratos. But, you know, everybody knows that Fortress is one of the best cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Unless he falls into a bottomless or a D-Prison, the card's absolutely fantastic. You know, you can equip Gear Frame onto it to make sure that it doesn't die. If your opponent targets it, obviously you just wreck the fuck out of them by looking at their hand. And if they kill it in battle, then, again, consequently, you just rape the fuck out of them by killing one of the cards on their field. So, now, obviously, a lot of people will probably ask, what about windups? Now, side note, there's one thing about windups I do absolutely love emphatically. Windups is very Los Angeles Clippers, Lakers, Dallas Cowboys-esque. And the fact that it both wins and loses gloriously, which probably is why the deck is so interesting. Like, wouldn't most people agree that the LA Lakers and the Dallas Cowboys are the most interesting teams in those respective leagues? Of course, because whether they're winning or losing, it's always gloriously. That's kind of a wind-up aspect. I don't believe wind-up is nearly as strong as it was during YCS Toronto. Going into that event, I thought there was no chance that any deck had of winning that event. That's why I picked windups to win Toronto. Looking at this deck, or looking at the standings now, I think windup's pretty vulnerable. I look at Junior and the way he 2-0'd windups in YCS Indy, and I keep thinking to myself, I don't even love that matchup for Samurai. But if it can be done, why can't it be duplicated and replicated? You know, I don't particularly love the Geargia matchup versus windups. I just think come hell or high water that it's going to find a way to get the job done. I don't know if there are going to be people out there who just, in spite of me, say, oh, Capital G, you hate Geargia's, watch this. I'll show you and just think that they're going to dominate this event, and they turn all that motivation into pure winning power. But some way I just can't see windups. I can't see windups winning this event. And when I look at a deck that pretty much shouldn't have bad opening hands ever, I look at a deck that when things don't go your way and you have to grind out games, probably is the best grind out game in Yu-Gi-Oh, but is, somewhat offensive and defensively challenged. It led me to Geargia's. I think that the deck is going to have the numbers to have a strong representation. I think that the deck doesn't really have a poor matchup. No, wait. Just on paper, Dark World should absolutely destroy this deck. I don't think Dark World are going to have high numbers, but on paper, I don't really see how you can beat Dark World with this deck. It seems like it'd be pretty much the same thing as the Hero matchup. But I really just have a feeling in my gut that Geargias are going to pull this out. I still don't believe that they're the best deck. I'd probably put them in my I'll probably put them in my top 5 after this event. But I really think that Geargias are going to win this event. Let me know what you guys think is going to happen at YCS Rhode Island, and tell me what you think of my pick.